Then I won't detain you further, Miss Vincent.
Steve, David Austin.
Oh, g'day, mate. What am I going to do for you?
Check out a few facts for me, would you? Something's gone at Wentworth, I don't know what.
Oh, well, can you give me anything to go on?
No visitors, a cop car, and an ambulance. That's all I know.
Oh, well, it certainly sounds suspicious, but there's no news down here.
Yeah, well, the prison authorities would be hardly feeding the story to the press, would they?
What story?
Kerry Vincent's parole hearing comes up in a couple of days. Now, if, and I only say if, there has been a death at the prison, they'd do anything to implicate her, just to hold up her release.
Oh, it's quite an angle. Listen, I think I might get down there right away.
Thanks very much, mate. I knew I could rely on you.
Huh, thank you, mate. You're a journalist's dream. You've just written the story for me. See ya.
Well, the police didn't waste any time taking your statement.
Well, there really wasn't very much to say.
What do you think happened to Gilmore?
It's obviously an accident. Though the police don't seem to share my opinion.
Well, it must be pretty difficult for them to make out a case either way. On the one hand, it could have been an accident. But after all that hullabaloo in the art class this morning, it seems like a rather convenient accident.
Ah, well, what difference does it make? Gilmore's dead, and we can't change that.
You don't seem very concerned.
Why should I be?
Well, if it wasn't an accident, it means one of the women killed her.
Then the police will catch them.
Well, how are the investigations going?
You could say they're progressing.
Well, what are the arrangements for the rest of the day?
The women are to remain in their cell until the investigation is complete. Birdsworth and Caffin are to serve the evening meal to H Block.
With that pair, I'd better make sure that everything in the kitchen is nailed down.
Something wrong there?
Yes. Smith is the obvious suspect, and the police haven't even bothered to question her.
I suppose they'll get round to it. But knowing Smith, she'll have an alibi, that's for sure.
Well, if Smith didn't push Gilmore down those stairs herself, she got someone to do it for her. One of them did it. Bennett?
Bring Smith to my office, please.
Certainly, Mrs. Davidson. Well, it looks like the police have finally woken up.
If the cops thought you'd bumped off Gilmore, you'd be questioned first up.
Yeah, well, maybe they're saving their best suspect for last.
Well, what have they got on you? Sweet Fanny Adams. You was in the laundry. I'll back you up.
Thanks, Lizzie. That'll impress them.
Lizzie's right. Anyway, how do we know it wasn't an accident? She might have done away with herself.
Yeah, well, maybe she did. Do you think Vera's going to let a golden opportunity like this slip by?
What do you mean?
She'd do anything to put a rope around my neck, and after what happened this morning with Ken, she must think all her Christmases have come at once.
Well, all you've got to do is tell the truth and keep your cool.
Gee, thanks, Lizzie.
Oh. Thought any more about your house?
What's there to think about?
Redecorating it in your own taste?
Forget about it, will you, Lizzie?
I'd paint it lavender with mauve highlights.
Will you two shut up and let me think?
I don't want to know, Lizzie.
God, you two are touchy. At least Bee's got an excuse, but you got a new house, a lovely husband, money and...
Outside, Smith.
Tell me, they want to see me about Gilmore. Am I right?
You'll find out soon enough. Birdsworth?
I'll go as a witness.
You'll do no such thing. You're serving dinner.
Can I give her a hand, Miss
You're
Bennett?
staying here.
But I don't want to.
Well, don't tell me you're frightened of being alone.
Look, what's the matter, love? You've been jumpy all day.
I just don't want to be left by myself, that's all.
Don't worry, I'll be back soon. You won't be alone for long. I reckon the cops have to question all the girls.
Get moving, Smith.
According to the record, it's fairly well established that you made threats on Gilmore's life.
Sure, but that's history. Anyhow, everyone threatened her at one time or another.
Quite. You have at least 10 more years to serve. 10 years without male companionship. That's a long time.
Oh, I don't know. All those flash schools are going co-ed. Maybe this joint will be next. A girl can dream.
Mr. Pierce certainly gave you something to dream about, didn't he? I don't know what happened between you two in that store cupboard, but I can guess. I bet he made some fairly tempting suggestions about what you might do to while away the next 10 years. And then to be exposed to all that ridicule and contempt. It must have been pretty humiliating to go through all that and have it all come to nothing. To have your dreams dashed because of Gilmore's spite. You certainly had enough motivation for killing her.
That bitch deserves all she got. But I didn't kill her.
Well, well. We certainly do have a temper, Mrs. Smith. Certainly enough to push someone down the stairs in a fit of rage.
I was in the laundry all the time.
Can you prove it?
There were half a dozen others there. They'll back me up.
Half a dozen women who wouldn't blow the whistle on their boss. Surely you can come up with a better alibi than that.
I'm a crim, Mr. Tegan. I'm meant to know every trick in the book. And don't you think if I killed Gilmore, I would have set up a better alibi?
That just means you haven't got an alibi. I've finished with Smith. For the moment.
I mean, you must know something about who killed Gilmore. Who's the chief suspect?
All the women will be questioned, Lizzie.
Good-o, because I reckon I could tell the cops a thing or two. I reckon the Almighty stepped in. I reckon it was divine indifference that killed Gilmore.
Religion isn't a game, Lizzie. You can't turn it off and on like a tap.
But if you won't tell us what's happening, you can't expect us not to consider all the possibilities.
Now that Captain Barton has found your daughter, I would have thought you had more things to occupy your mind. Brian's first, Lizzie.
Well, they find out who did it yet?
They're still being questioned.
You mean those idiots can't tell who killed Sharon?
I reckon it was divine interruption.
It was Smith!
It was bloody not!
It's possible it was an accident.
Yeah, well, maybe Smith didn't kill her. But it was no accident. And if those cops can't find out who killed Sharon, I will. And when I do...
Bryant's convinced that Gilmore was murdered, and she swears she's going to find out who did it.
And presumably intends to execute justice.
Yes, but I don't think she's rational.
Then she may attempt to carry out her threat. You'd better put her in the isolation block until she calms down.
Oh, don't you think that's a bit harsh?
Well, I do have a duty to the other inmates, and we don't want another death on our hands.
Yes, Mrs. Davidson.
Afternoon. Pathology report on Gilmore.
Death resulted from broken neck, all injuries sustained consistent with a heavy fall.
Yeah, we're treating it as an accident.
But I understood from the way you questioned the women, you thought it was murder.
Well, death occurred in suspicious circumstances, but unfortunately all the evidence is circumstantial and hearsay.
But there was obvious motivation.
I mean, Bryant admits having words with Gilmore, but killer? I doubt it.
Well, what about Smith and Vincent?
Well, I don't think Vincent's capable of premeditated murder. Anyway, Miss Bennett confirms the statement.
Which leaves us with Smith.
Yeah, well, she's far too intelligent not to have thought up a better alibi than being in the laundry.
But that's exactly what she wanted you to think.
Right, but without further evidence, there's nothing to justify a charge.
Well, what is your conclusion?
Well, without evidence to the contrary, I'm forced to concede it was an accident.
Well, that's a relief in some ways.
Look, I won't be dropping the case straight away. The inquest won't be for a couple of weeks, so if anything further comes to light...
I shall let you know. Thank you very much, Sergeant. Miss Bennett will show you to reception. Miss Bennett, would you make sure the prison routine gets back to normal?
Yes, Mrs. Davidson. And what about the press? They're standing outside the front gates like vultures. I'm sure they don't think that Gilmore's death was an accident.
I'll make a statement on my way out.
Must you?
A police statement. It's better to satisfy their curiosity. Otherwise, they just make it up as they go along. Mrs. Davidson? Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Steve Gallagher, Clarion. Would you care to comment?
Detective Sergeant Teagan, I have just completed my investigation into the death of Sharon Gilmore.
How did she die?
Death resulted from a broken neck sustained in an accidental fall. I'm satisfied there are no suspicious circumstances.
You were inside Wentworth Prison for quite some time.
Yes, I took statements from all the women.
Was there any particular suspect?
I repeat, I'm satisfied there are no suspicious circumstances.
Was Kerry Vincent interrogated?
I repeat, I took statements from all the women. Good day, Mr. Gallagher.
Well, looks like we have to make up our own story.
Police finished yet?
They've dismissed it as an accident. In my book, it's gross inefficiency on Mr. Tegan's part. They haven't had time to come up with
Vera, they had enough time to sift through what little evidence they had. I think the conclusion's quite reasonable.
rubbish. It was murder.
Well, they need proof, and all the officers say they saw nothing. They wouldn't be protecting anyone. Let's now patrol isolation, if you like. And don't get yourself all upset about this. Look, Gilmer was a scum of the earth. Who cares how she died?
Shut up, Smith! Aye! stop that at once.
What's the verdict?
It was an accident. Now stop that racket.
You little ripper!
Shut up!
That must have really ruined your day, Vera.
Any more of that and you'll end up in solitary for a few days.